Hi everyone. In this video interview, we're having a look at relationship and experience within the context of conflict. Let us start with a practical example. When one creates a point of friction within oneself through reactions within thoughts and energy, what we've been accepting and allowing as a habitual pattern is layering ourselves within that internal mechanisms of thoughts and energy into and as a accumulation of building reactions within ourselves over an extended period of time, so that eventually we have accumulated and built and layered ourselves within and as a particular specific point of reaction within thought and energy, to the extent where we then suddenly, seemingly unexpectedly, explode or have a outburst internally or externally through yelling or screaming or fighting towards a situation and or something and or someone, when all the while we have created such a point over an extended period of time. And the same points manifest within relationships, wherein suddenly, seemingly unexpectedly, the two partners, for example, find themselves within a point of conflict, and then the situation or each other is blamed, when all the while that moment, that experience of conflict has got nothing to do with the other person or even the situation. You're simply utilizing each other and the situation to vent out or release the accumulated, built up layers of energy that you have generated within yourselves over an extended period of time, due to the habitual pattern of building and accumulating energy and suppressing instead of facing, dealing and directing self within particular specific moments in relation to breath and physicality, and not accepting and allowing self to participate in the mind. So what many people or partners face within relationship is such points where you suddenly have a conflict toward each other and about a point. Like, for example, you'll be washing dishes and one or the other may just, for example, put the plate in the correct way on the rack, and the one will explode saying, "What are you doing? Why are you putting it like that? We've discussed this. Can't you do anything right?" Like, blow that whole point completely out of proportion. And then the other one that put the plate there will react back and, retort in replying or responding equal to and one with how the other reacted, and then even bring up completely arbitrary points in relation to their everyday lives about what the other is doing wrong and how they're doing it wrong, and it just becomes a total blowout, explosive situation, torn completely out of zinc, and not realizing that the reaction point is in fact always the source, origin and cause itself, that it has nothing to do with the partners or the washing the dishes or any of the other points that was or had come up in and during that moment. So this is a very important point, especially for those that are in the process of establishing an agreement or walking in agreement, or for those that are in a relationship now. to assist and support oneself in realizing what is actually in fact happening in such moments, which is the following. Now, because of one walking an extended period of time and building and accumulating layers of energy in relation to, for example, one point that you reacted to within yourself in thought and energy, but instead of investigating it or introspecting it in self-honesty and bringing it back to self, one suppressed it and then built upon it, accumulating upon it. And then in terms of, because one is in a relationship with another being, another person, or your partner in essence, and one walk with them constantly, continuously during the day, that is like a constant facing of self. What happens is all one's mind experiences accumulates a lot faster within oneself. But the mistake that is often made and the point that is often missed within relationship is self, where one thus relate everything that one is experiencing within oneself towards one's partner or the relationship, because that is the point that is most focused on or most given attention to. And then what happens is the mind will thus attach your reactions towards something or someone that's the most closest within your world and your environment, in which it can use to release the built up accumulated energy reactions of mind within self. So realize the first point, that when you're experiencing conflict with your partner and within your mind you're blaming and projecting them for the point that you're experiencing within yourself or reacting to within yourself, stop. Because what you're in fact doing is hiding, running away from, and further veiling yourself from the truth, which is that it has nothing to do with your partner or even the situation that you've become angry at or towards. It's all got to do with yourself. And therefore, what has to be done is you've got to sit with yourself and write out this point for yourself and have a look at what is the point that you're hiding or suppressing within yourself, where you're using your partner or a situation to hide behind. So, for example, going back to the dishes situation, you've got to look beyond your partner and beyond the dishes situation and look at the nature of the reaction. So, let's say in that moment you realize that the energy that you accessed was irritation. And now you've got to set that irritation free in the relationship design towards your partner in the situation, meaning have a look at what is behind, how you've connected the irritation towards your partner in the situation. Because connecting the irritation you experienced towards your partner in the situation is separation. I mean, you're deliberately projecting what you're experiencing inside yourself towards something and or someone there, which is obviously mind that's coming into play here. So therefore, release that point of separation from and of yourself, of and as your own irritation, through looking beyond your partner and the situation. Investigate why it is that you have accepted and allowed yourself to, in that moment, access irritation. Then you've got to walk back in time, so to speak, and have a look at during your day, during the past days. And if you're just moving slowly with yourself, being patient and moving through your days, you will, for example, see where you in a moment got irritated with yourself because you weren't satisfied with how you completed a project or a task, and that you could have done it more perfect, or more suitable to the standards that you know that you're capable of, but you accepted and allowed yourself to go into apathy and procrastination, and thus the results that you got back were less than what you know you're capable of. and so you reacted in irritation. And since then, within that moment, you accumulated irritation that you eventually took out on your partner for not putting the dish in the correct manner or the correct place in perfection. And so you exerted your own lack of perfection towards your partner's lack of perfection according to your idea of perfection in that moment. And so actually projected and blamed your problem onto your partner instead of dealing, facing, and directing it within yourself. So be very watchful of this point or play out that often manifest within relationships of projecting and blaming one's own points on one's partner and a situation instead of directing, facing, and dealing with it within oneself. And to use such points of conflict as a flag point in realizing, seeing, and understanding that there's a point that self hadn't dealt with, faced, or looked at, but suppressed, and are in fact trying to hide from through blaming or projecting it towards one's partner. And furthermore, to realize the tendency within relationships to project and blame points towards one's partners, instead of realizing that you're still individuals walking within a partnership, within an agreement. Just because you're walking with someone together constantly, continuously, doesn't mean that they're now all of a sudden the cause for what you're experiencing inside yourself. To not use relationships as points or environments of hiding, but to always be self-honest with self in walking one's own individual process, and realizing that you're still walking your individual process, whether you're in an agreement or not. Thank you.